Hi guys, Joey and Matt here from The Hustle, the best wedding band in the world,
Of
probably.
course.
We said that. This year has been weird. We've not been able to gig as much as we'd like to for the reason that is the big C word. And whilst we can't gig, we thought we'd kind of jump on and share some knowledge bombs, drop some advice, help some brides and grooms and couples out with the things that we know. Isn't that right, Matt?
Well, we can't perform, so we may as well give some advice out, like little pieces of information that we've learned over the years, but also 2020. We've learned a lot of new stuff this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that brings it into what the theme of this whole thing is. We're going to be talking about coronavirus and weddings and how the two things affect each other. The advice that we have coming towards it, not just from a music perspective, but if you are planning a wedding and the concerns that you might have. It's been crazy, Matt. I cannot believe how long this has gone on for.
I remember thinking in March when it hit, and we were both like, "Oh, it'll be cool. It'll be fine by June. Like we'll be gigging. Summer's going to be mental." And then June came. We're like, "It's all right. We'll be gigging by August." And we did a gig in August. Do you remember that? Back in August.
Yeah, we did. I feel like that's going to be good to pick up on because we are one of the very, very few bands, I think, in the country who has played a socially distanced, COVID secure wedding. So maybe we can begin with talking about that and how it was. And I suppose for other people who might be planning a similar wedding next year, what was it like for you to perform at that wedding? Different, right?
I mean, it was strange. I mean, obviously, if you remember, it was a solo gig. You're only there. They wanted sort of chilled out acoustic stuff, and me and Neil were like, "Well, we're coming." Like, we're not staying at home. It was that sort of point in the year where, like, it looked like things were on the mend. The mend's probably the wrong word. It looked like weddings were starting to happen again, and that couple, they'd already postponed once, hadn't they? So they're like, "No, we'll go ahead." So yeah, me and Neil came along. The couple were amazing. It's like, yeah, whatever, just do your thing. And we played kind of like an acoustic set that, I mean, it got a bit lively, it was cool, it was fun, it was different.
Yeah.
But it was just nice to be performing.
Yeah, that's it, man. It just felt nice to be going back out there. I feel like that what everyone wants, what I want is the whole like, hey, let's go, we can party again. Everything's crazy, book a massive band, whatever. I feel like with where we're at now, the start of 2021, there's going to be this gradual thing of like those kind of sets are going to be a bit more common over the start of the year for like people looking for smaller weddings. Do you think there's still a place for live music and live bands if you've got 30 or less people?
Without a doubt. I mean, that one in particular, when I said it was how many people were there? Were it the 15 or the 20 people? It wasn't many.
Yeah.
But yeah, they sort of said like, yes, it's it's a socially distant wedding. We're not going to be sort of playing Mr. Brightside and all on each other's shoulders and stuff like that. But, there was dancing. People were enjoying themselves. And I think that's the key thing. They had a great time and they sort of took what was there rather than moaning about what they could have had. They enjoyed what they did have. And, there was a bit of banter from us and a bit of interaction and stuff like that. And I think it just made it a bit more, well, it would have been a boring party for them if they just had a playlist on.
Yeah.
Because people who just sat around drinking, it gave them a reason to sort of, watch something. They had their first dance. They had those key moments. So yeah, there's definitely place for it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, hopefully it doesn't stay like that.
Yeah, hopefully. Even if just for the briefest moment, the fact that we were there, we were able to make somebody there forget that COVID was a thing, even for 5 minutes. I feel like it's worth its money just for that because people were having a good time and like, how many times do you think those people in that room have been able to got up, sing and dance this year? That might be the only time for over 12
Highly likely, yeah. And I think what I liked about that day as well, I think a lot of the guests were surprised as well. I don't know if you picked up on that, and we haven't really discussed it, but I think a lot of the guests were, all right, we'll go to this wedding. It's basically, we're going to be sitting around drinking. It's going to be a really boring day.
Yeah.
And then 3 dudes turn up with some instruments. And even then, I think they would have expected us just to be like that background band, just playing some music, not really. And then the next thing they know, they're on the dance floor, sort of, getting involved.
The thing is, I don't know if you noticed this as well. I love it, but when you turn up and you see people scope you out, right? When you turn up at a wedding, but you see some people's like eyes light up. It's like, ooh, there's a dude with a guitar here. Like, cause the bride and groom will have spoke to the guests. It's like, oh yeah, we've got some music later or whatever. And they're probably thinking, oh, disco, iPod, whatever. And then, a couple hours later, three cool guys turn up with some guitars and like a cajon, and people start to, think it and get excited about it, and think, oh, this is a bit different and a bit cool.
How do you think that gig was different for you? Because you could have obviously have done that solo, but instead you had me and Neil backing you up. Do you think there was much difference?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it gave it that energy, which I think one of the concerns that people would have if they were having 30 or less people is this going to be too much, right? If I bring like 3 or 4 guys in with instruments and playing some music, like that's like a big percentage of the amount of guests that I've got is just like, people coming in to play music, and you might be thinking like, it's going to be overkill, right? And we didn't know either before we turned up, because we were like, we don't want to overdo this, because we're just meant to be there. But I think one thing that I realized, it was perfect, really. Like, it was just the right amount of energy. And I think if you are going to be hiring musicians for like a low-key wedding, I mean, we say this all the time, but like, hire good ones who know how to read the room. Because you could hire like a pub band, not to diss pub bands or something, but they might turn up and think they're at Glastonbury and turn everything up to 11 and not really care about the day, right? But not to blow our own trumpets, but we spoke about it quite a lot before we turned up there, and thought about the approach of like, what instrumentation are we going to use? The fact that we got Neil on the cajon instead of a drum kit, it's like, we thought about it ahead of time. Thought, let's not blow their faces off. Let's be fun and be entertaining and that kind of thing, right?
So I remember we had, like we do at gigs anyway, but we had a few sort of routes planned through the evening. Did we discuss beforehand, like, if this happens, we'll go this way? And it was very much sort of read what was happening. And I think it kind of went, the perfect way,
Yeah.
If they'd have come out all blazing straight away, we would have run out of things, because it wouldn't have been right, but it didn't. They sort of gradually built up, and it was like a normal gig, but just a bit more chilled,
That's why we're amazing, Matt. No, but like not to, God, we sound so big-headed, don't we, on this, right? But there's something to be said in that, of like controlling the room and pulling the strings, right? Because I think even there was a moment where we were like somewhere through whatever the set would be, it was like, should we play Twist and Shout now instead? It's like, yeah, all right, it's the right time. And we just go with what's happening, and kind of, we created that atmosphere at the end, because they're not up and singing and dancing to Don't Look Back in Anger without us. We're there to make that happen. So yeah, I think you've got to be able to kind of move things around, like depending on what's going on in the room and stuff like that. But yeah, it was fun. It was an experience to play a lower key wedding. I mean, I can't wait till proper big parties come back. But for what we can do, I still think it's worth it.
And I think that going forward as well, because remember, we wanted to talk about what's going to happen next year, not just about the one gig we've done this year. But I think having that reassurance, if somebody's looking to book a band and they're booking a band thinking, well, I don't know whether I can have 30 guests or 130 guests at this stage. If you're looking at June, July next year, whilst I hope and pray you can have 130 and it can be the weddings as we know them, there is the potential, and there is that at the back of a lot of people's heads, that there's only going to be 30 guests there.
Yeah.
So I think, and again, with ourselves, if somebody was to book us, whatever happens on that day, we can accommodate essentially, and we can do whatever's required.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think booking, if you are gonna, booking anything right now is a risk. Anything, not just weddings, like booking a holiday, booking whatever you want, right? It's all a risk, because nobody really knows. Like, nobody knows what's going on. But if you want live music on your wedding day and you want it to be as risk averse as possible, then hire a band that can change and manipulate their lineup and accommodate all of the eventualities that you might have. Whether that is, I've only got 30 guests, so I need it more low key, or I can't go ahead with the day, so can the band move the date for free without charging me on top of? Make sure like all that stuff is covered, so if you are booking somebody, then you have nothing to worry about. You know that whatever happens, whether you have 200 guests or 20 guests, or the wedding doesn't go ahead at all, and you want to rearrange, the band are going to look after you. Same with any other supplier, really. But
yeah, I think ask that question, like you say. I think it's no one's going to be offended if you're asking that question. Like, if I have to reschedule my wedding, what happens with, more often than not, in most cases, people are paying a deposit. So what happens with that? And I think, certainly in our case, we're happy to move that to another day, move things over. We're not going to charge anything extra. And if we're not available, we'll do everything we can to help find somebody else, But ultimately, a deposit is a deposit, so it's paying for something. I think a lot of bands have got this. I've heard some crazy things of what people are doing about moving the dates, about maybe charging extra or anything like that. I'd kind of be inclined to say avoid that, but not if it's the band that you want. Weigh it up, look at what they're going to do, think about it.
Yeah, absolutely right, man. I think it's all dependent really on kind of what happens over the next kind of few weeks and months with stuff. I mean, what do you see the future looking like? I mean, we don't know, by the way, just before we say all of this stuff, but how do you see things for the future of kind of live events, live music and that kind of thing?
It's been mentioned by a few experts if they are experts, and we won't get political in this, but by the government and by sort of the advice being given that sort of Easter, spring, we should be okay. Obviously the vaccine's being rolled out. I mean, that's one hell of a Christmas present, really, isn't it? It's a bit of a glimpse of things happening. The industry itself, and we're not just talking about us and bands, we're talking about the whole wedding entertainment industry, cannot survive much longer if they don't do something. And so I think there's enough people shouting about it to make things happen. It may mean that spring next year, the weddings that do go ahead, there are some restrictions. Now, I don't know whether that's going to be the number of guests. I don't know whether it's going to be the rules that they have to follow, whether it's going to be like, don't be kissing each other on the dance floor. Who knows, But we discussed some ideas recently about sort of what if it's presenting a negative COVID result before you go to the wedding, or you've got to have had the vaccine. There's all these different things that people are put into place, and it's 6 months away. That's a long time. Maybe 5 now, but it's going to come around pretty quick. I think things will be going ahead by spring. I hope things will be going ahead by spring.
Well, from the horse's mouth, it's himself. Boris did say, I might be able to find the clip and chuck it in here or something. I might link it in the description of like where people can find it. But he did literally say about weddings specifically that there might be kind of springtime where we're looking at normal. And obviously just in general, outside of weddings and all this stuff, like normal life as we did know it before all of this might be around that time. So I feel like you're kind of as safe as you can be with that. But, who knows?
But here's the thing, I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, I think our next gig that's still in the diary is the 15th of May, Joey, and I'm hoping we're good for that. If you had a wedding planned for the 15th of May, knowing what what would you do now at this point? Told you I'll put you on the spot, man.
Good question, man. What do you do, right? I mean, I'd be asking questions of like all of my suppliers and stuff. I mean, flipping it around the other way, our client or like couple who have booked us for May, I mean, if they messaged us after this call asking like, what do we think? I mean, what would we say to them, right? It'd be the same stuff that we've said in this call of like, we hope things are going to be okay. However, if we do need to move it, let us know ahead of time what date you might have. We'll try and make sure that we're free and it won't cost anything extra to move across.
I think that's the thing as well. I think the reality is people are aware that lots of weddings have been moved. So availability for lots of things has massively reduced across the next year, the next couple of years. We've got bookings in for like Wednesdays in weird times because people can't get the key dates that they want. So I think if you're precious about a date, you need to be thinking about the scenario of, are we happy to wait another year or even 2 years to get the Saturday in spring or summer that we want?
Yeah.
And you think about, but then and also the suppliers that you've got, what are you most precious about? Who do you speak to first? If hey, again, we're going to blow our own trumpet. But if the band is the most important thing that you've got booked and the thing that you do not want to lose,
work around them.
speak to them
Absolutely.
first. Yeah, get some dates with them.
And if
Obviously,
you're
speak to
flexible with your venue or something, then
Yeah.
if you're okay picking somewhere else, then I suppose that's right. And maybe that is maybe the one takeaway that people can take from this, that if you are in that weird period, if you don't know whether you're going to have to move your date or not, make a list of all the supplies that you have, from venue to bands to celebrant to whatever it is, of importance of like of your day, like what's going to make your day the most, or what is the most crucial to your wedding, and work your rearrangements and possible changes around that. Then you kind of avoid the most disappointment possible, right?
Yeah, I think prepare and this is having got married a year ago. Like this is, it's hard to come up with a guest list. Yeah. Now, to have a guest list and then realize that you've got to take away some of those guests, that's tough. So maybe start having those thoughts now. If you've got 150 people coming, maybe draw a line on, well, you're going to have to rank your guests. You're going to have to do and you literally are like, number one, like if only one guest can come to this wedding, it's this guy.
Yeah.
And
that
then
list should never go public to any.
Oh God, yeah, no, keep it to yourself. But have it ready.
Write the list and then burn it afterwards. If that gets out to friends and family, I mean, you are dead to so many people. Like
this is very true. Yeah. So how you deal with that is not. We can't help with that side of things. No. But yeah, maybe have that just preparation that if we can only have 100 guests, this is where the line is. We can only have and then you'll get to a point where you realise that if it drops below 75, we're not going ahead.
Yeah.
And so you've got that as a sort of a benchmark of what can happen. But on the flip side, and I've said this to a lot of people, that if your wedding's one of the first when things are going again, oh man,
that's gonna pop off.
Can you imagine that? That first wedding back for the band and for the guests and for everybody.
Well, I can't wait to play, man. I'm gonna be so unfit when if that one goes ahead in May. I'm out by like 45 minutes in, man. Like second half, I'm gonna have to get some Red Bull, or I have no idea like how.
We're doing all day on that one as well, Joey.
Oh man, I better. All right, I've got a few months to get in shape. I'll get sorted for it. There is a thing though, right, of like being gig fit, which last year I was the most gig fit I've ever been, because I was playing 2-3 times a week, and just like I kind of got to the point of like a burnout, I guess, but I was just crazy on it. Like I just felt so gig fit. And I think for a lot of us musicians, like there's going to be, we're going to have to get back into it pretty quick and hit the ground running.
I mean, we've already discussed what we're going to do for that. And I think, to alleviate any concerns that clients have got, we're going to be in the studio, hopefully from like January, February, just rehearsing the hell out of things.
Absolutely.
And knowing how we do rehearse, we'll be playing it like it's an actual gig. As soon as we're back into it. So
I think that's just a quick tip. If any bands or musicians are watching and you are rehearsing leading up to the return of gigs, rehearse like it's a gig. Sweat needs to come out of you during practice, because if it doesn't, then how are you going to prepare for
none of that. If someone makes a slight mistake, stop, can we start again? It's like, no man, we're in a gig. Like this is a gig environment. Face the same wall, like face like a gig, have banter with said wall whilst you're rehearsing. I think that's it. It just makes, because the excitement's going to be nuts when it comes to the gig. And if you've been, we've been playing for years, so it's not, but we will be rusty. It's been a long time, So I think if you eliminate the actual playing side of it, and it's just about the interacting with the audience, it's gonna pop.
It's gonna be fun, man. I can't wait. I'm sick of talking about it. I just want to play a gig. I want to get back on stage. You realize how much you miss it, man. But I think you're absolutely right. When things do return, and if your wedding is one of those first to go ahead, people will be so up for it. So yeah, it's gonna be good times, man. I think we're all looking forward to it. Is there anything else that we'd like to kind of throw out there or mention with COVID? I mean,
I guess people who are, almost a bit of a, not warning's the wrong word, but a bit of a, like if you're looking at 2022 to get married.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have been hanging fire to see what's happening. The reality is, in one way or another, weddings will be going ahead in 2022.
Yeah.
We've already seen all of our weddings from this year, bar one, get rescheduled to either next year or even, and a lot of them now are getting rescheduled to 2022 because next year is so busy. So if you haven't got things booked for your wedding in 2022 yet, because you're seeing what happens with COVID, stop seeing what happens with COVID and
just go
get things
for it.
booked. Yeah.
And the reality is, like, and there's two sides of this. Some bands that I don't agree with these suppliers, and I think it's wrong at doing this, not just, well, anywhere in the industry, but like raising their prices. I think that's just fundamentally wrong. But there are others that if you do it now, you'll get a much better deal than you would do if you're going to wait 100%, because these suppliers, bands, musicians need, deposits in and things to keep going now. So they'll be happy to cut a deal to make sure that you're looked after and can book the date in, because we both know that 2022 is going to be crazy busy. I mean, we know that next year, hopefully, is going to be crazy busy when things return. But yeah, there has been that focus on 2022, which seems a world away right now. But we both know we're doing this for a long time. Things move very, very quickly. And, you're back into the wedding gigging scene before you know it. So yeah, I mean, I get it. If you were booking, if you had your wedding in like late spring, early summer in 2021, I'd understand the hesitancy to be pulling the trigger on loads of stuff right now until you know a little bit more. If we're in 2022, stop messing about. You just want to get things booked in and get moving and plan the wedding that you want, because it's going to be a very, very busy year. So yeah, it should be interesting, but I'm up for it no matter what.
Yes.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah, good advice, man. Good tip.
Is this where we say, if there's any questions, like, do the comment thing? Is that what you do? Like,
pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone's watching this and you're new here, feel free to follow us and sub. We'll be, dropping advice and stuff on a regular basis. And obviously, Matt and I have been doing this for a long time. Just like in the band, but just in the wedding industry in general. So we know a lot of things. We speak to a lot of people, and we're kind of up to date with as much as we can be. So if you do have any questions or just want any advice on anything, you know where we are. So
and we're all around just generally quite nice as well. We're quite happy to help,
Speak for yourself. I'm a horrible human being.
Lies, Joey.
Yeah, man, good times. We will be back again soon with some more advice. I think maybe next time, let's just tie off. Let's not talk about COVID again unless we have to, right? Because
1 second, this is really the wrong time, but I'm being yelled at, and Rachel's back with a baby, and I think 1 second.
By the way, if you're still watching, Matt has recently become a father, and I'm saying this now because I don't want to cut and edit this video afterwards, because that is unnecessary effort. So I can only imagine the stress of becoming a parent during a pandemic, but this is what happens, apparently. Kind of thing you have to deal with. I hear him coming back. Oh, my days. He's back with a brand new.
I'm so sorry.
I filled the time really well. I literally said, because I don't want to edit this afterwards. I just mentioned the fact that you're like a recent parent during a pandemic, so life is a bit crazy.
Yeah, just a little bit. And baby was being fed just as the Amazon dude turns up. So it was one that I had to go. So thanks for filling time.
I did see him out the window, like the driver. I could have given you a heads up, to be honest with you, man. Like, hey, you've got a delivery, by the way. It's fine though.
Yeah, so the electric Amazon vans. That's
crazy.
So cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
we are.
That's another conversation, another day. Like,
I'm not getting into that. That's mental. Okay, man. Well, cool to catch up with you. I hope anyone's watching this found that stuff useful. You know where we are. Stay safe. We love you. Good luck if you are planning your wedding. And goodbye.
Bye.